Alright, what is up, y'all? So, for those of y'all who don't know, Earthling Ed just released his book in Italian. Why Italian? I don't know. I mean, it's like 1 1/3 countries speak Italian. You know what? I don't care. Me being selfish, it was amazing because that meant that Earthling Ed was coming to Milan to give his book tour. And some other cities around here. But most importantly, Milan, because that's where I am. But y'all, I'm so serious. When I saw that he was coming, I was like, what? Milan? Like, I just got here 2 months ago. Like, when I saw that, I'd been here like 2 weeks. So I was like, damn, that is good timing. But anyways, the point is that he was coming. You could sign up to go see him speak and maybe get a chance to talk to him. And so, you know, me being the simp that I am for Earthling Ed, I thought, I'm gonna go to all the events. Hell, I was like, if I don't get a spot at the Milan one, I'm gonna go to Bologna. This guy would sell out like a 10,000 person stadium in London probably, right? I'm not overselling him, right? Because that's what I've been telling everybody. But anyways, the fact he was coming to Milan, I was like, there's not gonna be that many people. So this would be like a great chance to see him in person. Anyway, so the day arrived that he was coming and I took the 1 hour public transport it took to get there. Yeah, like Milan, my ass. And I got there early and I sat right in the front. And yeah, Ed came out. Honestly, y'all, this was an incredible speech that he gave. It reminded me why I had so much respect for him in the first place and why everything he said resonated with me so much. And it kind of just like revitalized me and reminded me of all of these incredible and convincing reasons to be vegan, you know? It was kind of like an OxyClean White Revive for my activism, you know? Yeah, I just started using like whitening products for my white clothes. That's what happens when you hit 30. But anyways, so I actually whipped out my phone and I filmed a couple parts of the speech. I got a solid 20 minutes of the speech on my phone. And the way that it was set up is that the host was asking questions and Ed would answer a question. Each question would last roughly 10 minutes. So I actually got 2 questions in there and we're gonna react to one of the 10-minute segments that I got recorded. So it's not like I haven't seen this before, I have seen this before, but I remember when I recorded this question, I was thinking, damn, I cannot believe I got this on camera because it was really good. And so yeah, I wanted to share it with y'all and react to it. Yeah, and I don't think you'll find this speech in any other places. So yeah, let's get to watching some Earthling Ed.
So how do you see the vegan movement in the whole progressive movement towards a better world for humans and the earth, of course?
Yeah, great question. I mean, veganism is political. It is about challenging political structures, political ideologies, as any social justice issue is, whether it be feminism, LGBT rights. It's about challenging ingrained norms and about challenging power structures.
Yeah, I mean, so veganism is political, duh. I'm really glad that he related it to a lot of these issues, again, feminism, LGBT rights, I don't know if he said Black Lives Matter in this case, but, you know, civil rights issues. Because that's something that I'm always trying to bring up too. I'm always trying to help people see the connection between veganism and what it represents, as well as how it's connected to a bunch of other movements that they're probably already in alignment with, you know what I mean? So good on you, Ed.
And so it is political, and it is tied into those. It's separate because, you know, all of these issues exist separately. You know,
Okay, so I think you might say this, but I don't personally like when people say that veganism includes humans. Like, people forget that humans are also vegan, because for me, veganism is a movement specifically for non-human animals, not, you know, that's not us. And the same way the LGBTQ movement is for people of the LGBTQ community, in the same way that, you know, Black Lives Matter is a movement for Black people. The movements don't necessarily have to do with each other, but they're all linked because they're all anti-oppression, you know what I mean?
They aren't all connected in the sense that they can't be viewed separately, but the logic that leads us to challenging power structures should lead us to challenging other power structures as well. So if we recognize that someone shouldn't be treated unfairly or shouldn't be discriminated against because of their sexuality or their gender or their ethnicity, the logical extension is that we then start to go, well, what about species? What about other things that we still discriminate over, as well as these other things I mentioned?
And, you know, that's something that I try to get through to people too, that if we shouldn't discriminate people based on race, sexuality, gender, then why species, you know? And a lot of the times it can be as simple as thinking of a dog, right? Like, if I wouldn't cut up a dog and eat a dog, like if I would be revolted by that, why would I do that to a pig? Like, why doesn't that revolt me too, you know? Anyways.
The logic of challenging ingrained power dynamics is very much what connects all these things.
Sorry, I keep pausing, but like, this was literally me during the speech. I was like, yes, exactly, yes.
But they are separate in the sense of, you know, the issue of animals is an issue that is you know, the things that we do to animals are very unique in a sense, and they come through this long history where the justifications are different. You know, people perceive eating animals as being a necessity. They rationalize it not through necessarily a moral lens, but through kind of just a practical lens. Oh, I couldn't afford to be vegan, or I have to eat meat to have protein. And so the power dynamic behind that is not necessarily one of conscious violence and discrimination, but one that is so buried beneath with all of these other justifications that we can kind of not think of ourselves as being bad people and still eat animal products. And I think that is a difference. People can be good, compassionate people and eat animal products. I'm yet to find a nice, compassionate racist. You know, those people are different because the way that society views these issues now, and hopefully will continue more and more, teaches us very strongly that those are oppressive and immoral things, but we're still a little bit behind with animals. So it is separate, and the challenges that we face as vegans are a little separate. But it is all connected in the sense of all oppression stems from the idea of supremacy. I am better because I am a white, straight man. I am deserving of more rights, more privileges.
All right, so I just want to stop him right here because he's going to keep going. But like, he makes a really good point about how a lot of the times our discrimination comes from having had it embedded in every aspect of our lives for our whole lives, essentially. And it takes like a societal shift to be taught as kids, or just like societally, that certain behaviors are unacceptable.
More expectations because I am a white, straight man. This is stemming from an arrogance and ego, which I am using to position myself as being better than, because of completely irrelevant and also coincidental things. I didn't choose to be born a white, straight man. I am a white, straight man, but my deserving of rights and privileges should be viewed the exact same as anyone else's. And I think with animals, it's a similar thing in the sense of we go, well, we are human, therefore we can do as we please. It is an arrogant form of supremacy where we position ourselves as being so above them that we don't have to think about them, we don't have to consider them. And when we do consider them, it's the bare minimum, if that, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, what Ed's getting at is that it all comes down to supremacy, and he's absolutely right. You know, like, that's another way to think of all these oppressed groups. White supremacy, male supremacy, in this case, human supremacy. So
again, it's about realizing that we didn't choose to be born human. We are privileged to be born human. There are a lot of great things that come from being born human, but we didn't choose to be born human. A pig did not choose to be born a pig, a chicken did not choose to be born a chicken, and they should not be exploited, subjugated, and harmed because of a body that they did not choose to be born into. And they certainly do not deserve these things to be done to them. And it's the same with human oppression. The problem that we have is that because we're still battling all of these terrible forms of human oppression, we push animals further and further down. But actually the connectivity of animals and humans, or non-human animals and humans, is actually so much that protecting non-human animals helps humans. Slaughterhouse workers, migrants, refugees used for farming, these are exploited humans who are perpetuating a system that exploits non-human animals. And actually, we remove slaughterhouses, we remove especially factory farms with the way that they treat humans as well. It allows us to actually bring about a little bit more equality and balance for humans. And then you think about South America, you think about the deforestation there.
yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. Like, going vegan is something that doesn't help just animals, it helps everybody. There's nobody who, this isn't mine, I didn't come up with this. I think it was Ed who said it, but there's nobody on this planet who isn't negatively impacted by the way that we treat animals. We're negatively impacted, the animals are negatively impacted. Yeah, and you know, I hear sometimes people saying like, oh, like, I want to focus on the animals, I don't want to focus on any other issues. And I'm not saying if you fight for other social justice issues, you have to be fighting for animal rights. But I do think it makes anybody's argument weaker if you're not consistent in your anti-oppression stance. You know, like, oh, I think women deserve equal rights, but not animals. And you know, he was talking about it earlier that this isn't like a conscious decision people make. But you know, what's happening now is people are starting to realize the links that exist between those movements. And even as like the other movements get larger and veganism is in the conversation with those movements, I think veganism could grow even more quickly. You know, if we ride on the coattails of those other movements and people are realizing that oppression based on species is just as wrong as oppression based on gender, sexuality, you know, all that good stuff.
Not only that, but you think about the displacement of indigenous people, the murder of indigenous people.
Right.
I mean, there's this argument sometimes that veganism is anti-indigenous. No, veganism is not anti-indigenous. If you go into a supermarket and you buy chicken or pork products, ham products, it may have an Italian flag or an EU flag, but the feed is coming from South America. And the two biggest drivers of deforestation in South America, number one, cattle ranching for beef and for leather, which is exported all around the world, including into the EU. And the second biggest driver of deforestation in South America, soybean farming, for things like animal feed. In fact, 96%, my phone is vibrating. A phone call from someone, how rude. In fact,
See, it's funny too.
96% of all soybean farming in South America is used as animal feed. So when we buy our Alpro soy milk,
And that is what's funny. A lot of people don't realize that even if like the animal products they buy say, oh, they're locally raised and stuff, what these animals are actually eating are probably shipped from overseas.
which is used with soy grown in Europe, or even North America, let's say. Or we buy our chicken and pork products with soy that was grown in the South American regions. Or we buy beef or leather that was produced by cattle from South America. Who is most anti-indigenous? Who is most contributing to human suffering? And I find it so insidious and so disingenuous, so wrong, that we are labelled as anti-indigenous by some people, but people who buy products that are actually funding companies that murder indigenous activists, destroy their homes, destroy their cultures, destroy their ways of life, that's considered the pro-indigenous position? No. This is so wrong. And when you think about JBS is the world's largest meat processing company, and they are very active in South America. They fund products to all supermarkets, to all the major supermarkets in all these different regions around the world. They are so large and so politically powerful, and they get away with actual murder. This is why I think when we talk about social justice,
Yeah, and I always just think it's so weird when people who want to be left-leaning, who want to be anti-capitalist, like, they don't understand the connection between food and capitalism, or even food and colonialism. You know, it's almost like the inverse. People try to make veganism out to be this Western diet that's going to come and wipe out people's centuries-old cultures. But the reality is going vegan, going plant-based diet is an act of decolonization, because so many of these civilizations ate predominantly plant-based diets. Like, we forget that eating animal products so often is something relatively new, you know?
it pains me so much that leftists, the people on the left who ideologically I am most in alignment with,
Woo! Ed's a leftist. There we go.
will criticize me for being oppressive because I'm vegan, when actually veganism will help many of the people that they are also seeking to protect.
That's like the biggest irony. It's so frustrating when you're arguing with someone who, you know, you feel like their heart's in the right place, but they're arguing against you when at least you're talking about veganism, when veganism basically supports every single position that they already have. And obviously they don't want to change because that would mean they'd have to change their diet. And that's like a really scary thing for a lot of people, so I get that. But yeah, that's what we gotta educate people, not just on the why, but show people vegan food. People don't want to eat animals, they want to eat good food, you know? They want it to be easy to eat good food. So that's why I think it's always important to show people how easy it is to eat good vegan food. So check out my travel videos.
And that there is, I think, a big problem in progressive circles of denying this issue as an issue. And not only denying it as an issue, but trying to frame veganism as being a problem to the issues they're trying to represent. Because
that's crazy. Yeah, you do see that. That's just crazy.
It's not reflective of reality, and it actually holds people back who ideologically are probably more closely aligned with us. It holds them back from making the change.
Absolutely.
Because all of a sudden you have people who talk very proudly about social justice, about environmentalism, about protecting the environment, who will then also in the same breath turn around and criticize vegans.
Don't even get me started on the environmentalists who shit on veganism. I don't know, for me it just really bothers me to see people who are so about the environment but they refuse to do anything about it because they say, oh, you know, well, like 100 corporations, whatever. Y'all know the stat. Yeah, it's just really hard to see, especially when those are the people who cared the most about the environment in theory. Yeah, so that's just really hard to see.
Veganism as an individual choice has been spoken about as being the most powerful thing we can do as individuals for the environment.
Exactly.
And through being vegan, we can start to challenge some of this huge exploitation of humans.
Absolutely.
There is a connectivity in terms of the practical aspects of it as well as the more philosophical ones. And so veganism is political, and by challenging political norms and political policies, by challenging how we subsidize food, how we legalize the farming of animals, how we fail to hold to account animal farmers, through doing those things through our dietary choices, we can have a huge political influence and as a consequence help non-humans and humans.
Absolutely.
And these protests that have happened recently in the EU are a great example of why we as vegans have to do something. Because we can't just rely on politics. Politicians in the EU, to their credit, have tried to do something, not enough, have tried to do something, and they were met with an incredible level of animosity and violence from farmers. I mean, we as vegans, check this out, we as vegans get accused of forcing our views. Farmers, they'll just block the roads with tractors, right? But we open our mouths and we're told we're forcing our views. And there is something quite disturbing about farmers not only blocking roads, which as a form of protest I think can be powerful. Again, disruption is fine. I'm not going to be a hypocrite here and say that farmers don't have the right to protest. They have the right to protest. They're wrong what they're protesting about, but in a democracy they have the right to protest. But I think it's really troubling when farmers will burn manure or burn asbestos because they're being told they're bad for the environment. The irony, you're burning harmful toxic materials, releasing toxic chemicals and gases into the environment because you're being told that what you do is bad for the environment. Help me out here. That's wrong, right? That's like if a parent was said, you have been accused of hurting your child, and you say, I would never hurt my child. To protest against that, I'm going to slap my child. You are doing the thing that you're being accused of doing. You're proving that you don't.
That's something else that I love about Ed. I mean, I think when he speaks, he's just so logical. Like, it just comes off so... like, it's hard to hear what he has to say and disagree with him. You know what I mean? And that's a talent, you know? Not everybody can do that. I mean, that's why I love hearing him speak.
Care about these issues. And again, I'm...
And that's what I'm saying. I feel like this speech just really revitalized me. Like, listening to this again now, I'm like, yes.
Of the EU, but to their credit, there were policies that they were trying to bring in, but they've now had to water them down so much. And what that means is we can't rely on politics, because it will constantly fail unless enough people support initiatives and changes. And so as vegans, we have to get people on our side, because then politicians can bring in measures that will change things. So veganism is political, philosophically political. It needs to be practically political, as in we need political change. But the only way that will happen is if enough people are vegan and enough people care, that it diminishes the power of farmers and farmers' unions to get politicians to retract the policies they want to implement. We need to show that we are a big enough voting bloc, that we care enough and are passionate enough to meet the animosity and the mobilization of farmers. Because what they do well is mobilize in the EU. And we need to be able to match that through our voices, through our numbers, and through our influence. And then political change can happen practically as well. So it's a number of different things.
Thank you. So,
The applause. Anyways, yeah, so I love how Ed links veganism with all the other social justice issues. Because, yeah, a lot of people already believe in those issues, and I think there's so much that we can learn from those other social justice movements. I love how he talks about that, because that's the way that I've always kind of seen veganism. I mean, I've mentioned this in other videos, but I'm not necessarily an animal lover. Like, I'm not an animal lover. I don't really... I mean, of course I love dogs. Like, you know, I'm not a monster. And, you know, cats are cute, too. But the thing that really calls me when it comes to veganism is the fact that it's oppression. Like, at the base, it's no different from any other of the social justice movements that I so strongly support. You know, I'm vegan because I'm a feminist. I'm vegan because I believe in Black Lives Matter. You know, the recurring pattern in all of these is the strong, dominant group against the weaker, less powerful group. And with veganism, I'm not trying to do the oppression Olympics, but I do believe it's the ultimate manifestation of oppression, because we are the strongest beings on the planet, and we exert our power and our dominance on the absolute weakest or most vulnerable groups on the planet. So to me, there is no bigger possible power gap. They can't even speak up for themselves. They can't even say anything. So that is something that's a bit different from the movements, because it's the one time where people in the group don't even have the ability to formally speak for themselves. Formally, don't come at me with a scream kind of thing. And so y'all, I did actually film another 10 minutes of this speech, another question, but this video is already getting a little bit long and I didn't want to react to it. So I decided to throw it up as exclusive content for all my patrons and channel members who support with $5 or more a month, to give y'all a little something. Yeah, so y'all be able to see the segment. And that's something that I'm thinking of doing from here on out, to show gratitude to people who support with over $5 or more, to throw up some exclusive content every now and then. All right, well, y'all, thanks so much for watching. A big shout out to my patrons and channel members. If you want to support the channel, you can do so for just $1 a month. And starting from today, there'll be exclusive content for anybody who supports with $5 or more a month. So don't forget to eat your legumes, take your B12 supplement, and I'll see you on the next one.
They not like us. 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 They not like us.